Hello my snacks, welcome back, my name is Jack. Question, have you ever bought a gaming console that caused your parents to divorce? No? Well, you're not going to relate to this story then. Yeah, I've had to bring out the classic guy for this one. It's a roller coaster. I'm recording this intro at the end of it all. Wow! I propose to you the question, how many posts does it take for someone to realize they're an a-hole?
It all begins with this story, asking if they're the a-hole for selling their PS5 rather than sharing it. So, I'm the 15-year-old male. My mum and dad met and briefly dated while they were both studying at uni. My mum gave birth to me after they had broken up and had to sue my dad for child support. I was raised by my mum and had virtually nothing to do with my dad throughout my childhood. My mum was an international student and her family cut ties with her due to the circumstances of my birth. Tragically, 2 years ago, I lost my mum to cancer, and thus I was placed under the care of my dad. My dad has remarried and has 2 sons, 5 and 7, with his now wife. It wasn't a bad arrangement at first, but we were all essentially strangers. I was given a bedroom to myself, and we shared some meals, but other than that, kept to myself. Now, about 10 months ago, I was lucky enough to score a casual job at an aged care facility as IT support. It was stupid, easy money, as it involves installing and maintaining a dozen or so common PCs used by the residents, plus running basic computing workshops. I ended up accruing a whole lot of disposable income in a short time. Stupidly, instead of just keeping quiet about it, I decked out my room with a new TV, headphone, and a PS5. Now, obviously, this setup was of great interest to my 2 stepbrothers. Initially, my rule was that they could play the PS5 anytime I wasn't using it, but I would get first dibs if I wanted to play or use my TV. I was also super accommodating by buying an extra controller, which I didn't need, and several kid-friendly games that they wanted to play. I eventually had to change the rule to only play when I was there because the 5-year-old destroyed one of my controllers through spilling juice on it. This is where the drama started. They whined to my parents, who then ordered me to place the PS5 in the living room. I refused, stating that I had purchased it with my own money. This led to their argument that I have too much money and food money. Called their bluff and said, "Sure, draw up a contract and I'll get a lawyer to review it to ensure it complies with the Family Law Act." My dad then told the boys that he was to buy a separate PS5 for the boys for Christmas, but the dude is clueless about the global shortage. Finally, last night, after realizing that he had zero chance of buying one for close to recommended retail price, my dad threatened me to either voluntarily gift my PS5 to the boys for Christmas, or he would toss it in the bin while I was at school. I was so ticked off that I went to Facebook Marketplace and sold the PS5. The boys found out today and were devastated. I feel really bad because they shouldn't be punished for the Schmidt show. My parents are in their room talking about me, and I'm sitting here in my room. Am I the a-hole? How could I have handled this better?
There's already the first red flag there with the parents. The moment their child is earning decent wage, and they're not even 18 yet, don't encourage them to save money and invest in anything for their future. No, I birthed you! Gimme! I deserve some compensation! This is honestly fascinating for me because I actually got into this whole mess from the final story, which I am so tempted to give you straight away, but no, it's more beautiful just to build into it.
Moving on to the update on December 18th. Wow, this blew up overnight. Firstly, thanks to all the kind strangers out there giving me your positive encouragement and support. It's quite humbling that so many took time to read my story and chose to provide positive support. Some people were after an update of the situation. I'm at work now, but my stepmom had a chat with me this morning, and it was quite positive. She said she didn't know about my existence until right before I came to live with them, and so it caused a huge rift between her and Dad. She apologized for projecting that onto me and not being more welcoming.
Yeah, this kid didn't exist to this mum. This man married a woman, raised kids with her, and did not reveal at all that he had a son. But people make mistakes. I'm sure he's got some sort of redeeming qualities.
She also didn't know about my dad's threats and told me that it won't happen on her watch. My half-brothers also admitted to her about the juice incident. She said that she is going to get the boys a Switch for Christmas, and she offered to pay me the difference between a recommended retail price and getting a new PS5. Now, I probs won't take the money, but at least it's a step forward. This was the longest conversation I've ever had with her too, by the way. No comments from my dad yet, lol. To answer a few common questions, 1. My bank account is entirely in my name only, in Australia. No one else has ability to view or access the balance. I actually don't think my dad's demand for rent was about money. They both earn a good salary. He's just butthurt that I'm not reliant on his money. 2. Yes, I really am 15. I typed out my post in Word so that it could be spell and grammar checked. Maybe that's what confused people. 3. I get $27.50 an hour on a casual contract, with additional loading for weekends per hour. The operations manager at the aged care facility is super chill and allows me to schedule my hours around school. I just have a cap that I can't go over. She lets me do my homework on the clock, and I get free meals from the cafeteria. If I help the residents on non-facility devices, they usually tip me, in cash or sometimes cookies, lol. I've got a fair bit saved up because I don't really have any expenses.
God, can we just take a moment to appreciate the life without expenses? Ugh, no one loves you, Bill.
4. I've got a shoebox of documents from when my mum passed. I think my mum's assets is looked after by a trustee firm which will be turned over to me at 18. The law firm managing the will had previously explained this to me, but I wasn't really paying attention at the time. I've got to go still through everything. 5. I sold my PS5 for a tidy profit, even with the cost of the damaged controller. I'm not desperate for one at the moment, so I'll just sign up for a waiting list again so I won't need to take up my stepmom's offer. This is probably my last post on this issue. Thanks again for the love, everyone.
Oh, but it was not the last post. Because what did we get on December 26th, the Boxing Day update? And this is where it gets oh so good.
So we've got a gathering with the extended family today. This is the first time I've met any of them due to COVID, and they've all been super lovely to me. My stepmom showed them my original post, and they are all getting stuck into Dad. My uncle, Dad's younger brother, has set up a Reddit account for him, and he's doubling down as he thinks Redditors will take his side when they need to read his account of it. I'm not going to link or read his post, but people have been telling me it's quite a bloodbath.
So yes, his dad did in fact make an account. Because this man, who had to be sued into giving child support, you think the Reddit's gonna really consider his thoughts?
Am I the a-hole for asking my son to share his console with his brothers instead of keeping it in his room? A few days ago, my bio son Jonah, not his real name, posted a biased and frankly defamatory post about an incident in my home regarding a PS5. My wife was kind enough to share the post and comment with our extended family at our Christmas gathering, so apparently now I'm a huge a-hole. My brother suggested that I post here to set the record straight and give people both sides of the issue.
Oh, you can hear the ticked-off boomer in his voice. Well, it's my voice, I'm putting it on, but point remains.
Firstly, I never actually intended to charge Jonah rent. His job gives him essentially 100% disposable income purely because he lives in our household. He used this money to deck out his room, buy brand new shoes, buy the latest iPhone, etc., all for himself. I couldn't care less about how he spends his money, but it does set a poor example for my other two boys. The last straw was when Jonah set a login password for the PS5. I basically told him that if he's not willing to share, then why should I give him a free ride?
And there it is. Oh, there's that classic little straw man of an argument. Free ride. Oh, I give that to you. It's not like I'm obligated to raise a child that is mine. No. I could just dump you in the street, and that would make me a totally normal, respected human being in society. I'm doing this for you. Also, the poor example? What? What's the poor example? That if you save money, you can buy things? Huh? I mean, I was willing to, look at his side of things, but he's starting off terribly.
My son should be grateful. While we shared DNA, I only dated his mum, May, not actual name, for all of 5 months back in uni. I was very clear with May that I didn't want kids, but apparently consent doesn't go both ways. May put me through legal hell and ended up costing me tens of thousands of dollars over the years in child support, setting my own goals back. Instead of letting Jonah end up in a group home, I stepped up and took him in when May got sick. Instead of gratitude, I constantly have to deal with disrespect and attitude. Because of Jonah, my wife thinks I breached her trust, all for something that happened well before I met her. While the boys previously did have access to the PS5, he now won't let them play it now that school is finished for the year unless he's home, which he never is. I gave him the ultimatum of either sharing the console or no one gets to play it. In response, he pulls the most passive-aggressive move ever and sold it, so now no one plays it. So listen, am I the a-hole here? I've taken in this kid into my home. A kid, by the way, who will receive a sizable inheritance in a few years thanks to May's estate. I've given him a home, a family, and fund his lifestyle, all at the cost of my own relationship. In return, I haven't asked for a cent, and he won't treat me with respect nor follow my rules, but somehow, I'm the giant a-hole who's in the study typing this out instead of enjoying Christmas with my extended family.
You're allowed to not want to have kids. You're allowed to not want to be involved in kids. Provided, here's the catch, provided you don't perform in the act that can give you kids. You know what the best deterrent from having to raise children is? Abstinence. Can't get out one or the other. What? Or, hey, here's another option. Snip it off. Not the whole thing. Vasectomy, people. Let's not mutilate. Vasectomy. But this whole, apparently consent doesn't go both ways. I get to step away from this responsibility because I don't consent to it. Mate! That is some delicious tea that I wish I had preset right now. You know what?
I'm making some tea for this. This needs tea. Woo!
But enough shooting fish in a barrel. Let's see what his reaction is to, well, Reddit completely not siding with him.
Okay, this hasn't gone down the direction I thought it would. Clearly, some of you have issues with comprehension or just can't be bothered reading my comments fully.
Yeah, mate, it's all us. We're the problem here.
I want to be clear. I never threatened to collect rent from Jonah. I don't need his part-time work money or about his inheritance money. I make a very good salary, probably more than the vast majority of people who use Reddit. I simply tried to explain to him that he has all this disposable income because he doesn't have to worry about basic needs. I didn't explain it properly at the time because we were arguing, but my intention wasn't for Jonah to give his PS5 to the kids permanently. I just wanted it kept in the common area until I can buy another one for the kids. Jonah never told me about the controller. If he had, of course I would have replaced it. That's not an issue.
Like, there we go, see? Look what happens when you actually explain yourself properly instead of being all petty and passive-aggressive about the fact that you didn't use a goddamn condom. It's one thing you demand your child give away something of theirs. It's another when you ask them if they could share it for a limited amount of time.
I expected him to not be so selfish to his brothers. Keeping it in his room under password protection is so rude. Jonah gets home really late most days, so my kids are in bed by the time he gets back. I won't debate the nuances about smacks in custody. I'm not an idiot. I understand perfect consent and parental responsibilities. I will just say that there is a large gap between consenting to smacks versus consenting to having a child. I get that our current laws are against me on this one.
Again, mate, you can't... Like, when a woman's going through the 9 months of pregnancy, you don't get to be at any point be like, you know what? I don't consent to this, and the baby just disappears. The only way your consent works here is if you are forcing her to get an abortion as a result. Do you understand that? You're probably not watching this, but it's a rhetorical question then. Shut up. Am I wrong? Am I wrong to be... I don't know. It sounds like a really dumb argument. Is there some way where this makes sense? Please tell me if I'm wrong. Unlike him, I'm totally willing to hear other opinions.
I didn't intend to lie to my wife. Jonah and May were something way into the distant past for me.
He's just admitting that he does not care for the existence of his son.
Our settlement agreement was very clear on that. I had absolutely zero communication with May or Jonah for at least the 10 years prior to finding out about her illness. My child support was at a fixed rate, so I had actually paid her out a lump sum that was supposed to take care of him until 18. It wasn't like it was getting taken out of pay every week.
Okay, getting into that more then. I want to pop this out here, theoretically. let's look at this without acknowledging the context of this specific father's doings. But should not an adult be permissible to step back from the responsibility of child raising if they've signed something that the other parent has agreed to, that, you know, while they may not raise the child themselves alongside the parents, they'll still give out money to help them out? I just think of other situations. A mother who realizes they don't actually want this child, they're not ready. They want to focus on the career stuff. This child thing came up because, hey, protection isn't always protective. It's not like she despises the fact this child exists. She just wants to choose the career over the child. Personally, I'm going to say, if you decide to put your career before responsibility of raising a child, I do think it's scummy, but I respect your decision to focus on yourself over another person. Provided that you are still assisting financially, or in any way that assists the child in a third-party sense. Again, I don't deny it's a scummy thing to do, to just be like, bye-bye, here's some cash, off you go, kid. So I'm open to what possible alternative viewpoints you might think yourself.
Final point he makes is, as far as I knew, I was never supposed to hear from Jonah or May ever again. Why would I tell my wife about something like that?
So of course you think that would be the end of it, surely, but no, the mishap continues. The saga journeys on. Because Dad, despite being absolutely roasted on Reddit, comes crawling back, desperate for the approval of strangers online.
Am I the a-hole for intercepting and eating my son's food delivery while he was grounded?
Yes! Why would you do that?
My eldest son, 16, is undergoing a hormonal-fueled rebellious phase. His behavior consists of things like rolling his eyes when I talk, back-chatting when I tell him to do something, or over-emphasizing putting on his headphones when I enter the room, and a whole laundry list of other passive-aggressive behaviors.
Maybe it's got to do with the fact you literally have acknowledged him as nothing in your life up until now.
It was his birthday yesterday, and he was going to go out with his friends this weekend to celebrate by paintballing. However, when I got home from work yesterday, I noticed that he had failed to do some chores I had set him, and then did the whole headphones routine when I started telling him off for it. I got so sick of his attitude that I threatened to ground him for 2 weeks, which means not letting him leave the house except for work. My words clearly cut through his headphones, and it dawned on him that he would not be allowed to go paintballing this weekend. So, he took off his headphones and said, "Go frick yourself," and then shut himself in his room. This naturally led to his actual grounding. The grounding didn't seem to faze him as he spends a lot of time in his room anyway. I cut off his devices from our home Wi-Fi, but he works around this by having his own hotspot. He refused to come out for dinner last night when my wife asked him to, and has basically barricaded himself in his room. At 10 PM last night, he ordered himself a meal via a delivery app. Again, he is clearly being passive-aggressive here, flaunting his independence as he has a perfected, lovely meal in the fridge made by my wife. I was still up watching TV, so I intercepted the delivery and ate the meal myself. At some point, my son must have come out and seen me, but retreated back to his room without saying anything. My wife thinks I'm a major a-hole for eating the meal, but I think it comes part and parcel with the grounding. My wife also thinks I'm too harsh with him due to the grounding. I'll let him go to paintball if he apologizes. So, am I the a-hole here, Reddit?
Buddy, hey, look at. What do you think? Huh? Do you think you might be the a-hole? Be honest with yourself, buddy. I don't think you need many strangers on the internet to tell you that. So the top comment from that story.
Yeah, it's pretty weird that you ate the meal, an act that has no disciplinary value. Other options included putting it in the refrigerator for the next day and telling him not to order out when a prepared meal is available. Did it make you feel like a big man after he cursed at you?
But oh, here's the best part. Guess who's joined the top comment, everybody? It's the Sun! That's right, the Sun has hijacked his dad's post.
Hi everyone, sorry for hijacking the top comment. This is my dad's post. Thanks for everyone's support. I don't think I need to add any more fuel to the fire here. The post and the comments largely speak for themselves. I just wanted to give a quick update to everyone that I'm 100% fine and okay. My stepmom vetoed my punishment, so I'm all good to go out with my friends this weekend.
Man, Dad, you better watch out, because I've seen a lot of videos on the internet, and the way that some stepmoms are with their stepsons, she is clearly loving this little boy. That is so bad, that's not good.
one of my new uncles has asked me to stay with them for a while, which is also super cool. So I'm doing well and loving life. These comments are hilarious. Much love.
Oh man, this is like the fact that no one is siding with the dad despite what he thinks of himself. It's like seeing your high school bully just down in the dumps. It's very euphoric. So dad's back with another story. This one doesn't relate to the son that much, but more to the wife. And just, I'm just gonna read it.
Am I the a-hole for buying my wife a new dress? My male 34, wife who's 29, and I regularly attend formal functions, once every 2 to 3 weeks. I work as a consultant, and these events are a great way to attract new business and for networking. My wife generally dislikes these things, but she puts on a good front for me. It's generally a good night involving lots of food, alcohol, and socializing while our kids are looked after by a sitter. Due to the pandemic, we haven't had any for about 2 years, but they are now starting to come back. On a function 2 weeks ago, my wife came downstairs dressed in a pantsuit and her hair in a simple ponytail. Now don't get me wrong, she still looked amazing, but pretty much all the other ladies were wearing ball gowns or cocktail attire. When we talked about it afterwards, she told me that she was sick of the hours of hair, makeup, nails, and preparation, and that if I insisted she go, she will dress how she pleases. I tried to explain that these things are a necessary part of my industry, but she wouldn't budge. She counters that she never drags me to any of her work functions, which I responded that we should compare payslips, which was clearly the wrong thing to say, and she left the room.
How has your payslips got to do with your I'm giving up on this, man. Much like she seems to be. How does her not dragging you to her work functions got to do with you earning more? Because I earn more than you, I don't need to go to these things, but because you're poorer than me in this joint relationship we have, you have to come to my functions. If you genuinely want your partner glammed up and stuff, mate, you put in the money to just let her get it done by someone professionally and stuff. Stop leaving it up to her to do it on her own for hours on end. And if she still doesn't want that, well then she's allowed to. She doesn't have to, she doesn't want to, mate. It's this weird thing. What's it called? Something about human autonomy? Yeah, weird things, eh? It might be hard for you to comprehend.
After the argument, I tried to make it up to her, so I ordered a very nice and expensive gown for her to wear for the next function. I even took it to our tailors for adjustment, as they know her measurements. When I presented the dress to her, she was initially very happy and said the dress was gorgeous, but as soon as I mentioned that she should wear it to our next function, she immediately blew up at me. She thinks I'm being manipulative and going against her wishes. I thought I was just offering a nice gesture. Am I the a-hole?
And what's great is that, like, the top comment alone is just noticing the fact that you were constantly the a-holes in these stories. How, like, are you not aware yet of the person you are? And now, last week, we got an update on this whole saga. It's almost as if it's like its own cinematic universe. So what's going on in the daddo's life?
I'm sure many of you would be ecstatic to know that my marriage may be over. I came home this evening to find that my wife and my 2 younger boys have left, probably at her mother's house. My oldest is still staying at my brother's house since the beginning of January. This has hit me hard. As Redditors now like to remind me on a daily basis, I now know I have been a terrible husband and father. I have some self-reflection to do. I am stubborn, but my wife has always been there to talk me down. I guess she has had enough. The only communication I have is a text from my wife saying she wants a divorce and that her lawyers will get in touch regarding separation arrangements. I have tried calling, but it keeps going to voicemail. Same as my in-laws. I want to apologize. I want to offer to go to counseling or therapy like she asked. If I still can't get through to her via phone, I am thinking of going to my in-laws' house. I have to try to at least talk to her. I guess my Redditors hate me, but I welcome any suggestions on if there is anything I can try.
The first comment! We love a happy ending. Oh, negative 271. Whew. When Reddit hates you, they hate you. I mean, here's the thing. People are making some suggestions here.
I'd be slightly more sympathetic if his response didn't still have whiffs of woe is me bullshit, and the fact he didn't catch on that he was an a-hole after 2 posts calling him out as such. I mean, either way, it's a win. He He either apologizes and goes to therapy and becomes a better person, or he remains an a-hole, and his wife and kids no longer have to put up with him.
Now here's the most highlighted suggestion.
Leave her alone right now. Do not go to your in-laws. All you will do there is solidify her decision. She needs some space. Respect her by giving it to her. Allow her to have time to process her feelings. In the meantime, get that therapy appointment set up. Even if your marriage is over, you still have a chance to change for the better for your 3 sons. They are the most important ones right now, as they are minors and need you, especially your oldest. He's been through a lot and really needs his father to be a father. Seriously, do not harass your wife into coming back. Oh, what's he doing? My wife wants to divorce me and won't talk to me. How can I win her back? Hi all, I need some advice about how to win back my wife, and I am genuinely willing to do anything.
So just note, this was about 4 days after the last post we read.
To recap, my wife, 29, and I, 34, of 8 years had been having serious relationship issues over the last few years. The main area of friction between us is that I have a son, who's 16, from a previous teenage fling that I never told her about. We also have another 2 young children together. My 16-year-old had to come live with us about 3 years ago because his biological mother died. His presence in our lives caused a lot of tension between my wife and I because she felt I majorly breached her trust. We argued more and more about minor things until last Thursday I came home to an empty house. I am devastated. My wife is the love of my life and has always been the main support center in my life.
So immediately first 3 problems. Now this is the story that I read that revealed all of this to me. So welcome to where I'm at now. But do you notice how in this paragraph he still seems to blame his oldest son for these things?
I tried calling her, but she kept sending me to mail. She sent me a text saying that she wasn't ready to talk, but was filing for a divorce and to wait to hear from her lawyers regarding separation mediation. I am a wreck. I would do anything to have her back, including counseling and therapy. She had previously asked me to attend, but I was too arrogant to take it up. I felt that if I could just talk to her, I can have a chance to explain and we can get through this.
Now, children, let's remember the main comment that was giving him the best advice. Leave her alone, give her space, do not try to get in contact with her. Let her on her own. So, of course, he doesn't do that.
The next day I did something stupid. I went to a workplace, accounting firm, with her favorite takeaway lunch to try to talk to her. She must have worded up the reception staff because they adamantly refused to buzz me into the office. Her staff even went as far as calling for building security. Not wishing to cause further drama, I left voluntarily. That night, I doubled down on my stupidity. I tried to visit her at her parents' house with a bunch of gifts for her and the kids. My mother-in-law answered through intercom, but wouldn't let me in. I was so frustrated and emotional that I broke down at the door, basically making a scene and refusing to leave. Later, my brother turned up. I assume my wife called. He tried to convince me to go home, but we ended up in a shouting match. He eventually tried to manhandle me back to my car, so I got into a physical altercation with him. But I left when my father-in-law came out and threatened to call the police on me.
Yes, the classic boombox outside of the window didn't exactly turn out the way you thought it would.
Things have really gone downhill since then. This morning, 2 police constables turned up to where I work with a provisional domestic violence order, along with a summons to attend court for a permanent order. I was in shock, and as a result, was inadvertently quite rude to the constables. This put them offside. I am a contractor working at a client's site, and so, when my client asked the constables what the matter was about, they said they couldn't say for privacy reasons, but then immediately handed out business cards with their Family Violence Liaison Unit title embossed at the top. So now, my firm's senior partner has waved me off work going back to the client's site, and I may be fired.
Yeah, it sucks he could lose his job, but again, let's just remind ourselves, he's the one who's caused that. He caused that on himself. His emotionals caused this to all happen to himself. This is why you try to develop a thing, as you get in past your teens. It's called emotional maturity. You know that thing that a lot of alpha, sexist, misogynistic males accuse women of being incapable of controlling? Yeah. Oh, the irony of man.
I feel like this is the wake-up call I needed. I know I have been a narcissistic a-hole and am ready to change. What can I do to talk to her? To show her I am determined to be better. I don't want to just end it like this. I know that if I have a chance to explain myself, to apologize, to promise to work really hard on my marriage, to work on my narcissism, to go to therapy, to go to counseling, whatever my wife needs to forgive me, and we can get on with our lives. Our court hearing is in a few weeks, so I am thinking of turning up early with some expensive jewelry and try to talk to my wife before the hearing. My solicitor has told me this is a bad idea, but I feel like I need to do something. I don't want to negotiate with my wife across a courtroom. I just want to remind her how much I love her and how much she means to me.
I love you! Therefore we have to be together, because my emotional feelings say so. What? Your emotional feelings on your side say that we shouldn't? Don't listen to them! That's just your emotions getting in the way! Stop being so emotional about this. Be logical here. Logically, you should be with me. But you know what? I kind of really hope he does turn up with the expensive jewelry. Like, did he not learn his lesson from the dress? Do you remember the dress issue? Like, bro, mate, what are you doing? I bought you gift, now you have to love me. Let's get straight to the most upvoted comment here.
I have been reading about this whole saga ever since your son posted the PS5 story. This post cemented to me, more than anything, that you didn't learn jack schmidt whatsoever. So, let me reiterate to you and everyone here who is unfamiliar with your frickery to show you how exactly you fricked up. 1. 16 years ago, you couldn't be bothered to use fricking condoms and you got your late ex-girlfriend pregnant. And instead of taking responsibility for your laziness that resulted in you impregnating her, you have tried to force her into an abortion. She refused, had a child for herself, and you spent the next decade complaining to yourself how she is ruining your life for making you pay child support, without even having a hint of you being responsible for all of this. 2 years ago, you took your son into your house once his mother died, but acted like you were some kind of a fricking hero deserving all the praise for doing so, and established an unhealthy relationship where your son was expected to shower you with respect for doing the bare minimum, also even adding into your former posts like he should be grateful that he isn't in an orphanage. Meanwhile, you had to spring this news to your now ex-wife because you hid this very major part of your life from her. She had no idea whatsoever that you had a child out of wedlock with your late ex-girlfriend. Moreover, you tried to confiscate the gaming console your son paid with his money from his job because his younger siblings were being irresponsible with it, even though he tried to accommodate them the use of the console. Then, you forced him into a corner where he could either sell his console or have it brought to the living room to play with your other kids, clearly thinking you won the argument, and then you threw a hissy fit when your son sold the console because, surprise, surprise, he took the choice you offered him. 4. You found about this post via your family and you were so freaking petty and so fragile with your ego that instead of taking the fact that your whole family saw you as an a-hole here in stride and enjoy the holiday gatherings with them, you barricaded yourself into your office and spent the day making this account, even going so far by literally naming your account not an a-hole after all. Which, yeah, right there, not an a-hole after all. Beautifully ironic right now. And spent your day arguing with strangers on Reddit because your ego was reaching critical meltdown over not being able to get the validation. 5. In an incident that literally drove your eldest kid to move in with your family, he neglected to do his chores and you grounded him on his birthday. And then, when your kid ordered some food for himself, you literally ate it. Yes, you were this petty, this childish. And finally, the final straw that finally broke the camel's back, that finally reaped 16 years of you sowing your own downfall of your ego. You showing to your wife how much you not only don't respect her, but that you see her as an extension of your petty vanity. Instead of even trying to listen to her, instead of you trying to understand that she dislikes going to your business events, you not only ignore that, you basically try to bribe her with an expensive dress on the condition of her wearing it to your event. Basically saying, I don't give a schmidt about your feelings about my work. Here, a pretty dress. Now shut the frick up and wear it to make me look good. 7. Your ex-wife. I know you two are still technically married, but she is your ex-wife because no freaking way is she going back to you. Has had enough. Saw every single thing you fricked up in these 8 years and decided she is finished with you. But instead of you finally waking up, finally realizing how much of a worthless piece of Schmidt you are, you basically quadruple down, harassing her at work, harassing her at her family home, to the point where you had a fist fight with your own freaking brother because he is presumably someone who actually knows how to feel empathetic towards other people. And now, after all the Schmidt that happened, you sit here and think to yourself, yes, expensive jewelry in the courtroom will show her how much I care. But here is the crux. You don't. You buying expensive jewelry shows that you don't care. You only care just enough to get her back, because you realized, for the first time, the consequences of her leaving. You ending up alone. You want her back not because you love her. You want her back because your ego cannot take the fact that she left. You want advice? Let her go. You will give up on her. You will sign any alimony and or child support she demands. You will shut the frick up, and you will leave her alone. To quote you from your earlier post, he needs to learn the consequences of his actions. So, it's time for you to follow your advice. It is time for you to finally grow up and learn that you are not the main character of your story, and you do not get to complain ever again. You brought this upon yourself.
And that was it. I think it was that comment that really made him realize.
Update. I get it. It's over. You guys are right. I've fricked up. Irrevocably this time. I've lost my family and likely will lose my job. I've always tried to control everything in my life. It's worked for me in the past because my family is wealthy and they've fixed things for me. But my wife and brother must have spoken to my parents because they said I can't use the law firm my family has on retainer for my DVO or upcoming separation proceedings anymore. I'll hire my own solicitor as soon as stuff starts opening. I'll seek mental help too. Most importantly, I'll leave my wife alone. Thanks for your comments and advice.
Let this be the answer to the question that has been on our minds for centuries in human history and psychologically, depending on sobering of narcissistic a-holes who just don't get it. It takes 5 posts for someone to realize they're an a-hole, and about 2 months of drama and losing everyone they loved and held dear. Though, did he love them or did he just love that they loved him? It's strange, okay, because I kind of feel proud of him, but not. It's a very low level of pride for him, you know? It's like watching a kid put a single grain of sand on top of another piece of sand and saying, "Good job! You built a castle! Well done, buddy!" It's not a good feat. It's not a good feat at all after everything he's done. He's dug a hole well past China. He's accidentally gone out of the Earth's atmosphere on the other end of the planet, and he's diving straight down to the void. Anyway, I don't think there's any other points to add here. It's kind of been resolved in a sense. Look forward to seeing how it all pans out. Fingers crossed he does double down on the stupid jewelry idea. But otherwise, that's been me. Hope you enjoyed this drama, and we'll see you for some more later tomorrow. Bye-bye!